Tumelangela amagala mo Daily Thetha on SABC 1. Nakalibito ke na Nicolette wa Gamashile ngwana wa kwa Bush Patrick Mapulaneng. Ena re tshweleng lona le mela matsogo ke seswa rune andiswa wa ga Gebashe. Now South Africa has made some great strides in terms of dealing Leona Dwaji COVID-19. We've seen many people in South Africa really trying to adhere to the lockdown and the measures that the President and the Disaster Act has actually implemented on us. Now this does not come without its challenges. And let me tell you why. South Africa is a nation of two nations, right? A very unequal society in South Africa. There's been quite a lot of divide between on racial lines, black and white, but also on a monetary level between the rich and the poor. So today, how do you then adhere to some of these measures that have been put in place when you really are living in a back room, or you don't even have the chance to be able to stock up on your food just before the lockdown or the extension of the lockdown? This is what we're talking about.
And of course, glababugele ngikamuletwa kamia ekuqwani nesibewu. Sithi ke singena kuhlelo lethu lamhlanje sikhuluma kakhulu about the division lesisinayo South Africa, but also just on the back end of united country, a country that was celebrating the win of Miss Universe, the country that was celebrating the winning of the Rugby World Cup. Sithi ke kanti sizohlaselwa COVID-19 that reminded us ukuthi ngempela there is a clearer division that we're experiencing, and we experienced it first when we saw the stockpiling, people who were panic buying when we first heard of the possibilities of a lockdown. Kanti kuzohamba qhubeke ngami lapho phinde futhi when we saw how we became divided as a nation, where amasotsha bekafike lokushini, when police enforcement was different in the suburbs bayagijinyiswa, and it's not as brutal abashayiswa ama-frog jump, but thina as abantu abamnyama elokushini uzorola lapha enhlabathini ngempela uphuma udizi unga-understand ukuthi kwenzakalani. Umbuzo sobuzayo ukuthi ngempela according to the system, according to policies, how divided are we, and what are the causes of this division as we deal with COVID-19? Clearly not the same way. You can interact with us on our social media utilizing the hashtag Daily Thetha. Lauba nethuba ukuthi nawe to add your input on social media, Instagram, Twitter, but also on anytime ungasifonela in studio. Alternatively, utilize our WhatsApp number to send your videos on 072 316 1329.
Melody, just from Alex to Santa, there's clearly a divide in South Africa. But also the divide is not just on monetary levels. It's also the way we consume or receive or have access to information. Now, information is a very big thing because you then can act in the right manner. But we have found that the lower South African, the lower income earners in South Africa, or people that are just living in areas that are considered to be low income areas, don't conceive, don't receive, and do not interpret information the same way that the middle class and the upper class do. And we've seen this, and it's quite evident in what South Africa when it comes to the regulation, but also understanding what is needed from them as South Africans during this lockdown.
Siswami mina la ngihleli khona kusendlini kusejalidini lethu lesihleli khona. Thina ke ngoba sihleli kanje sidlela nje imbuya ngothi. Lena eyemali into esingenayo. Lento le iphathela abantu angazathi bakahle la ngasephatheni abafana nabo Ramaphosa lapho. Ngibona ke kumqondo nje ongemuhle kakhulu yazi ukuthi thina sihlale kakhulu endlini ngoba sihlele endlini nje kusuke kufuneka nokudla. Kuyimanje uhulumeni utshala amaphoyisa namasosha fuze ngabe abantu kade bavimba lama eline abo ukuze kuvinjwe abantu abanemali. Kuyimanje kuvalwa isibhedlela leko eThekwini engabe uthatha abantu abahlele emakhaya abafundile abangodokotela nabangonesi bahamba bayongena le ukuze kuqhubeke kulapha abantu. Zivalelwane indawo engabe ilapha abantu again. Kodwa kuyimanje abhiza amaphoyisa namasosha hambe valela abantu la engabe kugcwala odokotela. So nje thina ngeke sihlale endlini sibe singasebenzi. Sizohlala la sihlala amakhadi ngoba iwona into esikhipha busy ngazo. Thank you Jehova.
Mina ngeke endlini engimele le ndaba ukuthi ngihlale endlini kuze kube nini. Kwakunini lokhu ngihlele endlini. Namanje asilithola usizo. So sesibolele endlini, sifele endlini, sigugele endlini. Kuneni sihlele endlini, thiwa sihlale endlini. Kanti yona lento lena ngoba yezwakala ethiwa iseChina kuze kanjani ukuthi sizifike la eSouth Africa. Uhulumeni wayengathathi ngana amasotsha eyovimba emngceleni ungangeni umuntu la eSouth Africa naleyo corona ngoba sasazi ukuthi ile eChina. Kuze kanjani ukuthi engathatha amasotsha engawuvimba le kwiborder. bengezi laba abantu necorona ngapha thina sihlalela lapha thina sizichaka ngeke sihambe siyolanda yila abantu abarich abaza necorona abazila namacorona sihlelele thina la.
The only reason why I'm out and not complying with the laws of lockdown and stay in the house and whatsoever, it's because when I'm in the house, I'm depressed. It's like another things like I'm depressed. What you call? And so when I'm outside with the people, relax and whatsoever. But when I'm locked in the house, it's very bad. It's very bad. I think so it's better if I stay outside here and just relax and just get some air and free my mind. And the other thing is, I would see angisabi kuyithola icorona. Ngiyasabi kuyithola ne. But because of le nto engicede ukuntshela yona, I'm out here. Mara yona I would see angisabi kuyithola. Ngiyasaba. I'm scared.
Angikho sendlini because endlini kuyabanda. Oh, kuyabora guys. And since ikubora endlini sidla fast. Cabanga mama msemsebenzini and mina ngizobe ngisendlini yi-1 ngizoboreka of course. So that's why ngikho ku-lockdown mina. Plus nje coronavirus mina ngibhiliveli kuyo shame. Why kungekho i-cure yakhona mara ama-sanitizer nesephu yakhona ukuzibulala. Iyakhona ukususa ama-bacteria yakhona. Hayi mina ngibhilive shame.
Abanye bakhala ngokuthi bayabhoreka endlini, abanye bathi kuyabanda endlini, abanye bayakhala ukuthi ngempela le COVID-19 ayizange ifike nathi thina sishelele elokishini and kanjani thina we must be affected. It makes me then think a lot about how people also then don't realize ukuthi regardless ukuthi uhlalaphi khona la sohlangana khona as abantu, and that's how these not even diseases but viruses get thrown around like flu. Ngokuthi mina now we come from two different places, there is a central point, but in the process of healing we also go two different ways again.
Yeah, na melody ke ba kushisha. I can just understand gore malapa ha lekane. Wena wa khona go dula ko ntlong ya go ya 5 bedrooms, 6 bedrooms, 7 bedrooms, o khona go tšintša even a bedroom every single day. Bana ba go bana le TV, bana le internet. They've got all these things that they can stay in the house. You know, even the issue ya byala, ba tana le wine cellar. And then you come back to the same society and the same nation and you're saying stay at home or dula go di 1 bedroom. Arna le tšhelete go reka grocery when it is time to buy grocery. But that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit when we come back from the ad break. Why the healthcare is taking so much pressure on dealing with the COVID-19. Do stay with us.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha la ku SABC 1. Sajabula ukuthi ukwazi ukuthi uhlale nathi futhi lamhlanje and uqhubeke kule nkulumo yethu esikhuluma ngayo, talking about two nations in a nation. Kanjani? Well, it talks about how finances do the talking at times, and sometimes not just the finances, access, ability and information idlala indima enkulu, because we saw something that was very scary at a point in South Africa when in the early days of being aware of COVID-19 possibly being in our country, on the continent of Africa, where we saw people starting to do panic buying, and at this stage we're then not sure why are they doing it. We saw social media be a buzz and only to find out that, you know, sometimes information helps, but if you missed all that drama, have a look at what happened.
It is important for all South Africans to understand that the supply of goods remains continuous and supply chains remain intact. Government has had discussions with manufacturers and distributors of basic necessities such as food and other necessities, who have indicated that there will be a continuous supply of these goods. There is therefore no need for stockpiling of any items.
Despite the president's assurance in his announcement on Monday evening, throngs made their way to this wholesale retailer. Most were prompted by news of the lockdown scheduled to begin on Thursday.
just to minimize the movement. I know that some shops will be open, but it's just good for me and my family just to abide by the rules and to stay indoors. And just to make sure that the children have got food, I've got, cleaning detergents for my household.
We'll never know what will happen tomorrow, but the president has assured us that we have not to panic, I'm trying to not panic, but I'm playing it safe.
I thought, well, today the early bird catches the worm, because we're going to see you in 9 months' time. Obviously, water is a priority, and then obviously I've had to think of my animals as well. And obviously some dry goods like beans and flour. So obviously we're going to be doing a lot of baking and a lot of sampan beans.
While midweek shopping isn't a norm, some insist that this is not panic buying.
To do the shopping is basically to buy all the essentials so that we can be able to have enough time at home without going out.
It's normal grocery shopping, to be honest with you. I mean, it's really no panic whatsoever. And again, it will be very selfish of us to take things in bulks. We have to be considerate of others. And I mean, the president did say that the shops will be open. Should you need to step out to go get anything sometime in the month, you can always do that.
During an interministerial briefing, the Minister of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, Togo Didiza, reiterated this at the briefing held by DIRCO this morning.
The country has sufficient food supplies. Panic buying will only cause disruption and inconvenience in the food system. I therefore urge you also as the media to continue to communicate that message to our citizens, that there is no need for panic or even panic buying in the manner in which we address the challenges that we are facing.
Here's my thing. The gentleman in the insert in the video melody, it's about the what? The earliest bird catches the worm. Yeah, it's easy to catch the worm if you have money, because how do you catch a worm? We all want to catch a worm, and I think everybody wanted to go out and be able to buy a grocery. But lockdown it 21, 22. So when you are having that situation, it's not
You know, we better because I think it was Mshaka 26. And Mshaka 26, what we saw was people didn't plan to save their money. People didn't plan. They still took the way the average household is 10 crores of about, let's say, 700 to 1,000. And all of a sudden now, 10 crores is 3,000. Where does the extra 2,000 come from? Also, Imale transport Abantuana still needs to go out for Abantuana, even though we're going on a lockdown. So financially, I felt that we're on a back foot from the start.
And I don't think it's only even just about Chile. They're also about being able to access where you buy this grocery. You know, sometimes some of the people, and I'm just thinking about you know, those big sacks of things. So those are things that we need to also be considerate of. And sometimes we don't think from the perspective of storage also is a problem. But how do you store 7-8 milks in one fridge? You know, so those are the things that we need to be looking at when we talk about a country that is divided based on inequality. But let's look at another video where after a couple of days after the lockdown was now instituted by the president, and we've got now Abatwarune, lining, and they're trying to buy, and they're now being demonized by the same people that just 2 or 3 weeks ago were doing the same panic buying. Let's see.
Good morning to you, Blaine, and good morning to our viewers at home. Let me indicate that I'm at Giyani at Masingita Mall. I must indicate that there are very long queues here. People are telling us that they woke up as early as 3 o'clock to queue, and they are still in the queue. The control mechanism is such that the gate to the mall is closed, and people are expected to queue. They are taking a certain number in. As soon as that number is in, then they will go for the second and third round and so forth. But I must indicate that I'm worried about the social distancing, because it looks like it is not observed here, and this is going to be the case for the whole day. But let me quickly talk to the spokesperson for the Department of Social Development, Witness Tiba, just to give us a brief of how things have been since the start of a grant payment. Tiba, good morning, welcome to SABC. Let's quickly talk about social distancing here. Are you not worried as a department that it looks like it's not observed here.
No, Mike, thank you very much. Thanks for having us. As the Department of Social Development, we are very worried about what we are seeing here in Giyani. The queues are very long, and our communities are not observing the social distance rule here. But we have activated the local authorities here to come on board to ensure that such is observed, because the situation as it is very worrying. It is, however, I want to commend the shopping complex for the mall, Masingita Mall management, for the measures that they've put in place in terms of ensuring that we stick to the regulations inside the mall precinct. We're just worried about the situation outside, but we have engaged the local authorities to come on board. In terms of what we've been doing as the Limpopo provincial government, particularly the Department of Social Development, we've seen MEC Nkakaring Rakwale hitting the ground for the past 2 days as a way of ensuring or encouraging community members to observe the regulations, not for them to flock to malls in numbers, because money is already in their accounts. So we are encouraging them to stay at home until this queue subsides. But what we've also seen Premier Stan Matabata and other MECs doing the same at those identified hotspots.
Before I let you go, Tiwa, let's quickly talk about the number of people that you are going to assist. It's over 2 million. Will they be all assisted by before Friday?
No, we want to give assurance to all the beneficiaries of social grants in Limpopo that they will all be assisted. If they don't make it before end of business today, they must not panic. They will still get what is due to them, because the money is already in their accounts, and they will be able to go to the shopping complexes or plazas to go and access their money at any given time, as long as they travel between the prescribed period.
And Joby Bonella again now in Bugeli ukuthi abantu abaningi were very outraged, and abaningi bebakhala ukuthi abantu abamnyama abalaleli, they're doing what the government did not, kube ngazuthi they were resisting, but only forgetting the reality ukuthi imali bengakangeni, and that means they didn't have enough supplies. But some people didn't understand it, and I was very happy to see either social media influencers, people of industry, they needed to get what they needed.
And I think Sosin Kwati sang a lot is that, and I think you rightfully said it, Melody, but grocery 300, 400. So you're going to see them frequently going out because they're having to supplement, right? And that is really something that I don't think we thought about. Even the public transport system didn't think about but when we come back from the ad break, self-isolation, you're not social distancing, and what are the possibilities when you are living 5, 6 people in one bedroom? Back here on Daily Thetha. How is law enforcement dealing with people that are actually defying the lockdown regulations right now in South Africa? Now, obviously, we want to make sure that people are doing what is acceptable and they are following the law. But now the question, and I think a lot of people raise it, the law enforcement, the police people have actually become a little bit more stricter. Godi Township being versus in the suburban and urban areas. Let's see what happened. Go Alexandra.
Good Friday in the Khoza household took a turn for the worst. An enforcement patrol escalated and allegedly resulted in the loss of a life. Collins Khoza was enjoying lunch in this room when 2 women SANDF members entered the premises, questioning him and his brother. His wife details the incident.
They went inside and then they grabbed them outside from the house because they wanted to search if there is beers. They came with him here. They were looking for the beers. There was a box here. So they didn't find those beers. They only found one. It was only empty. So they took him outside and he was like, no, you can't take me outside because you didn't find what you were looking for. And you can't come inside the house, take a beer in the fridge and then took it outside. I wasn't drinking outside. I was eating food. By the time they come, they find him eating food.
Monta says her husband showed some resistance.
Everyone poured a beer on them, on top of them, because there was 2 beers and there was 2 of them. So after that, they had argument. I told my husband, please leave them alone, just come inside. That's when the soldiers were angry that we have attitude. What are we?
The soldiers called for backup.
They came with a quantum full of soldiers. So they started beating them up. And they asked, what for? Because you didn't find us on the street grouping and drinking. You find us inside eating food. They said, just go inside the house. Yes, I did run inside the house. And then I locked my door. And then that's when they barged in. They grabbed me in here. I was in the room. So the two soldiers, they came inside, took me outside. And then I did go outside. They beat me. I didn't do anything. I was just standing there.
She says she sustained minor head injuries. Her husband, however, was not so lucky.
He couldn't wake up. He was just sleeping and then vomiting a little bit. That's when I started to clean him. And then he never wake up. I realized around 9 late. That's when I realized that he's not breathing.
Nearly 3 hours after the incident, Collins Khoza died in this room with his partner Nomsa by his side. His family and community are outraged and say they want the soldiers involved to be brought to book.
I would like to see justice prevail for my brother. They must face the full might of the law because we were hoping these soldiers would protect us, but this happened. They must leave Alexandra because we can't coexist.
The IPID, if there is an IPID for soldiers, that they need to come here and make sure that the ones that perpetrated this thing get arrested and lose their job, because now a family has lost their father, a wife has lost her husband, so it's very sad and we don't know what to do. As the councillor of this area, I'm also shocked. We'll see how we proceed moving forward.
SAPS says the case is under investigation.
Police in Alexandra have opened a case of murder while awaiting the post-mortem results following the death of a man who, according to reports, was assaulted on Good Friday afternoon by members of the South African National Defence Force. The case is under investigation.
The Defence Ministry could not be reached for comment.
Joby Bonela, now it's something that really left us in Tlizo because Abantu and the community of Ekomora, which is Alexandra, feeling like Uguti has in white in Asbugela pants. I mean, losing his life in his own premises, while Abanye were caught in the streets of Cape Town walking their dogs. And Azange Bashawa push-up is where we really see the true line of us being separated and divided. But also in that, it makes us ask the question, at what point do we now as a community stand up and say this is enough? And where do we draw the line between stopping COVID-19 and also now taking this as abuse to Abantu Abakon and Pagatin Wetu, as we've seen videos go viral severally? But we invite someone who is a social commentator, someone who has an opinion about many other things and has been very vocal on social media as a speaker about the differences that we're experiencing in South Africa. Please allow us to introduce Thetha Kamoto, who joins us this morning. Trevor, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
No, fantastic. Trevor, I mean, let's first start off with your standpoint. Do you feel that we are not being treated the same between the rich and the poor?
Without a shadow of a doubt, I mean, just as that insert of clip we've just seen, it is clear that definitely the law is operating on two fronts. There's one that is actually just categorized for the rich, and then there's also one that is applicable only to the poor. Because, I mean, if we can take a closer look at it, ever since the lockdown began or the compliance of lockdown regulations, you are finding that life in the suburbs is somewhat assuming a normal course. Some people are still walking, and some people are still walking their dogs, and you will never see police or members of SANDF abusing those people. But now with the clips that we've seen and witnessed in the township and in some rural areas, it's very, 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 very disheartening, and it still largely proves how we remain a divided society.
Trevor, perhaps maybe we can get into this conversation. Do you believe, perhaps there was a different brief for different areas in South Africa. Is there a justifiable cause to say, yes, because of certain areas and because of the history of certain areas, a different brief was given to law enforcement?
I think generally, Nicolette, just to be honest, I think that would be a very distasteful brief if it was given. But looking at the fruits of what is happening with the law enforcement, I think that was precisely the case. Or maybe perhaps we are looking at the divisions of our country coming to the fore once again. Because now you must remember that our divided society will always rear its ugly head even in the midst of pandemics. So you find that maybe even with law enforcement or with SANDF members, it is already entrenched in their mind that when you are dealing with black people precisely, or when you are dealing with people from impoverished areas, you apply a different logic as opposed to when you are dealing with people from affluent areas, or precisely when you are dealing with white people.
So
even basically, to put it in a nutshell and as honestly as possible, we are scared of white people, but the hatred that we have for ourselves as black people is so much that we are so quick to assault a black man, yet when a white man commits the same fault or whatnot, we are quick to maybe calm them down or to maybe quell the situation differently. But when it's a black man, we are ready to answer with violence. We are ready to humiliate them. We are ready to somehow display that self-hatred upon them.
Trevor, it makes me ask, I mean, we spoke about riches and ukubaluleka kwemali when it comes to certain communities. Yeah. I could be a rich, affluent black man in any community, but how is my richness different to a white person's richness during this COVID-19, in your opinion?
My man, you know, unfortunately, the politics of color in this country will never stop applying. And it's sad that 26 years into democracy, we are still having this discussion, because we are at a point wherein we should be discussing how we can further grow the country and move our country forward. But instead, here we are still discussing how rules apply differently to people of two skin colors. I can give you a typical example right now. Go into maybe, for example, the plush suburbs of Sandton. Park your car there as a black person and just loiter and see how maybe members of the SAPS will respond to you as opposed to a white man who's just parking their car. Because already as a black person, you are already a suspect for some cause or the other, you know, but there's always a logical reason as to why a white person can be parked there. So that is something we need to get over as a society. We need to get over the politics of color and alternatively come to a point where we can treat people as human beings.
Trevor, I seem to have a problem here, and I say the problem being Uguti, black people do it amongst themselves. I mean, just umuntu selokishini as a black person, umuntu suburbs, we also are the people that call each other out. Is it a racial thing, or is it more of a class thing of qualifying for a certain space?
Look, I think with ourselves as black people, it's largely a self-hatred issue. It's largely an ethnic self-hatred issue. We hate ourselves so much that we don't want to see the best for each other. We don't want to see the best in each other. For example, it's sad how these visuals of soldiers abusing people, of soldiers somehow humiliating people, they have generated humor on social media. Some people find it funny.
Trevor,
that people are...
I think that point you've landed quite well. I just want to understand, watching Sona stories like Alexandra and seeing a man losing his life, and as being somebody who has family in one of the townships, how do you feel? Are you in fear of how your family will be treated?
Look, definitely so. Because if the SANDF can knock on that person's door and look for 2 bottles of beer, what is stopping them from doing the same to my uncle's house or to my grandma's house? Nothing at all is stopping them. So definitely that is something we should all be wary of. And whether we find ourselves in the suburb or in penthouses or wherever we are, but this is something we need to speak out against, because alternatively, irregardless of myself having family anywhere else, it affects all of us as South Africans.
Trevor, my brother, siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi ube nathi. We appreciate your time, and we hope that in this time as you're at home, you stay safe also, but also even more that you continue speaking your truth and educating those around us in South Africa. Siyabonga Puti. And I mean, I love Trevor's point, and I love how he's able to just separate just even the simplest of thought in how we look at money and also how we look at classism. When we come back from the ad break, sikhuluma kancane about the reality that South Africans actually can support South Africans, as we saw money being poured out and donated to us as a country to help with COVID-19. Kodwa konke sizobona besibuya after the break. Ungayindawo. Sejabula ukuthi usasenathi la ku Daily Thetha on SABC 1, the biggest youth show in South Africa, talking about everything yabantu abasha and anything that could inform and teach umuntu omusha. Now, of course, on this time, we're going to be talking to Dr. Ralph Mateka, who is in the world of politics and research, but also is someone who is an avid voice when it comes to the learnings of patterns and people. Because now we look at the regulations and how they are applied ngendlela engafani emphakathini yethu, and probably how we can understand for ourselves so we can maybe even protect ourselves in future, because if you don't know the law, you are then not finding a way to protect yourself. Dr. Ralph, welcome to Daily Thetha Lago SABC 1.
Thanks for inviting me, and greetings to your viewers.
Doctor, I mean, let's start first, with the most basic understanding. What is your perspective on how regulations have been implemented in South Africa at the moment, considering COVID-19 lockdown implementation?
Well, the reality is that the implementation of the regulation have shown how deeply divided our societies are and how far groups are. They've actually revealed the picture that we were almost getting used to. And I'm saying this with a heavy heart, that we were getting used to the picture of inequality. But now people having to be confined to their homes, it becomes clear which group of people can fend for themselves and who need the state more and who is most vulnerable. That is what we have seen not only in South Africa, it is actually showing across the world, where we start seeing the extent to which we have indigent population among ourselves. And we almost continued as business as usual until this virus has shown us that, wait a minute, you still have the basics about your societies that you have not looked into.
Doctor, it takes me to my understanding is a lot of people Elokshini believe that the rich people are the ones who have brought in this disease and virus in South Africa. Would we say they are wrong for thinking that, or what are we missing?
Well, I would not totally dismiss them. I have to be honest that if you look at the pattern of infection of the virus, the reality is that it goes along the socioeconomic line, the socioeconomic curve of inequality. The reality is that the most exposed people become people like myself, who are privileged to travel around. And I mean, I can say this, that last year in December, I was actually in South Korea, which is not far from China, where the epicenter was. So people who are the ones that are privileged in society, who happen to live in a particular place in South Africa because of our history, we are the ones that are the most exposed. And the reality is that the majority of the poor in South Africa come into contact because of their contact with the affluent world. And the sad part is that it is so sad that those that are seen as the ones that are being the recipient of this happen to be the most vulnerable, the ones that are actually exposed to the health. But the reality is that would it help us now to say it is the rich against the poor? No, it actually shows us one thing. The rich are intertwined with the poor. They cannot ignore the poor, vice versa. Our destiny is so connected that we should get rid of these artificial boundaries that we have in our society.
Dr. Ralph, when the lockdown was promulgated by the government, did it take thought of the poorer community in South Africa? And is the lockdown, maybe perhaps the regulations, are they better for them to be implemented within the upper middle class society?
I think that what we did, if you look at the state of emergency, you look at the National Disaster Act.
Yeah.
If you look at those legislations, in most cases in the past, they were never so much used on viruses and so forth.
Yes.
They're usually security-oriented, if you look at them.
Yes.
If you look at them, it's mostly about allowing the security, allowing that executive power to be more. So they lack the social aspect of it. And when I say the social aspect is that what we emphasized a lot in the first week was to put the boots on the ground. And we send the soldiers there without thinking that, oh my God, this is a social problem. We need the social response as well. You need psychologists, you need social development department. It is not just the police and the soldiers. So it exposed the orientation of our system, that our system of emergency and disaster is oriented a lot towards security. It doesn't look into the social aspect that usually shows our vulnerability. And we can blame whoever we want to blame here, but the reality is that we need to go back and fix our laws so that we understand the social repercussions of this thing, that it's not just the security, it's a social, it has got a strong social element to it.
Dr. Ralph, because we're going to come back with you. We're just going to get another call coming in from Queeness Lisa. But thank you very much for just giving us a bit of perspective in terms of the social impact that this lockdown and the regulations have had. So please hold for us. Dr. Ralph will come back to you. And I think he really, Melody, for me, points out something very important, because even the extensions, now you start asking yourself question, is government perhaps deaf to the cries of the poor, to the cries of how Sandy F is dealing with them, law enforcement is dealing with them, but also the impact of not being able to work right now?
So let's also welcome into inkulumo yethu lamhlanje Queeness Lisa, who also shares a bit of her perspective and how she sees things. Queeness Lisa, welcome to Daily Thetha on SABC 1.
Thank you, guys.
So, I mean, just to get into the conversation, what is your current feel about how the rules and regulations are being implemented amongst different communities in South Africa?
I feel like maybe because they're doing their job, but the government is doing his job, and that's why people also have their own minds. Like election, izinto eziningi zenzakala khona, whereby people are being violated khona. But now they are not doing that because bayafuna. We live in a place whereby we are forced to go outside every day because sithenga ukudla every day. We can't go outside. So every day we have to be outside.
Ngicela Queeness siswami, ngicela ungiphendele ipicture ukuthi impilo injani right now lapha eDavidson.
Okay, Nicolette, the thing is millions of people live in single rooms and cramped conditions in informal settlements or crowded inner city buildings, and I'm one of those people. We struggle to make substantial adjustments to our lives. To mitigate the spread of the virus, as much as we understand that staying at home and being safe is the government's first priority, to us, that's not the case, because we have to go outside like every day, and even like 7, and then maybe you find that Kim Cook and kitchen room, like this whole thing of being isolated, it doesn't work more.
Is there no way to plan so that you don't have to go outside every day? But to understand, but what else is forcing you to go outside? Is it because conflict starts to happen very quickly?
Yeah, actually conflicts do happen because you can't always be on my face every day. So we have to actually even lose a poor but I can't say you might end up saying, okay, at the end of the day.
Sis Queeness Lisa, siyabonga kakhulu ukuthi ukwazi ukuthi nawe nje uphawule kancane as a representative of ulutsha lase South Africa, but also just to give us a perspective ukuthi ngempela abantu who are living in confined spaces, cabanga so 7 in a 2-room, so shayisana the whole day, and it increases violence, it increases hate against each other as siblings, but also it makes us ask, did the government really consider those kind of situations? After the break, we continue with Dr. Ralph as he also just gives us perspective on how we maybe can even solve these things for the future. Best Moya.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha. A country with two nations. How is this lockdown, how are the regulations being treated by different societies in South Africa? Now we know South Africa is one of the most equal societies in the world. But right now, South Africa, as South Africans, we know that right after the lockdown was announced, we've had some of our richest in the country, billionaires, coming out to help the government and really support them in terms of donating some of their money. But also some people have said, but these are the same people that have made their money off the backs of South Africans. So rightfully so, they should come in and step in and help. But we understand again, together we can fight this COVID-19. We do have Dr. Ralph on the line who's going to be having a conversation with us of how do we then move forward to fight this thing as quickly as possible. Dr. Ralph, welcome back to Daily Thetha.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Ralph, just in the last conversation earlier on in the show, we spoke a little bit about the social impact that possibly was not really well thought about. Now, going into the fact that we had an extension and possibly we might have another extension, nobody really knows, right? And looking at the numbers, looking at the figures, the infection rate, these are some of the factors that have been looked at the economy at whether or not we'll have an extension. Do you think right now the government is deaf to the social cries of our people?
I think that the government is beginning to realize that if they do not manage this thing socially, you are going to lose the control of the security aspect of it. I mean, people at the end of the day are social, and South Africans, no doubt, they are very social people. They're finding it very difficult to live under these circumstances, and they are compromising, which I think is a great thing that they're doing. The reality, however, is that in the long run, the social problems just bubble. I mean, anxiety around employment start coming out. And these are abnormal circumstances for the normal humankind who has consistently been under democracy for the last 25 years to suddenly have to switch to. It's not a normal existence pattern of a humankind. So government, I think they are aware of that. They need to come up with a plan as to how to deal with the immediate shock of job losses, because there is no joke about this. You're looking at millions of jobs that you're going to lose, and you were already losing jobs anyway. So you need a well-structured social security response where you're going to say to people that, look, this is what we have. We are rebuilding the economy, but here is the social security. You need a good balance of that. We hear that they have not come to a consensus cabinet on that. They are working on it, and it's not an easy package, because the idea that lockdown will come to an end or whatsoever, I think what we need to be asking ourselves is, how are we going to learn to function under restrictions? Because there will be restrictions. Whether we say the lockdown ended or hasn't, life is not going to be the same. We're going to be seeing people with masks all over the place. That's just how it's going to be. There won't be people playing soccer in the full stadium. Let's forget about it in a short term. Yeah.
Look, I mean, Dr. Matsaga, it makes me want to also understand in this point, Uguti, we've seen, I mean, various people who are at the forefront of business in South Africa donating $1 billion on $1 billion on $1 billion, and other companies coming forth and contributing. But my worry becomes, is there a plan of distribution? You know, I know you've explained that they don't know from a governmental budget, but from the budgets that is being created by people who are contributing, do you think we know how it's going to be distributed?
I mean, you're asking a very important question. It's about transparency. I mean, 2 months ago, we were talking about how money gets misused in the public service, and it is the same public servant who are still in charge of managing this crisis. So as a nation, we must maintain a reasonable suspicion where power and money are being exercised. And I believe from that point of view, it should not be taken as an offense. So people should not be offended when they're being asked to account. It's just in line with the responsibility. So there should be transparency. The DA has proposed a parliamentary committee that is going to look into things such as this. We need to bolster transparency, because at this point in time, allegations of corruption are going to undermine the strategy. We cannot deal with allegations of maladministration of money, not at this point in time.
I mean, basically what you're saying is that the rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer if things are not managed correctly. But my question then becomes is that how do we then deal with the pandemic afterwards? I mean, the afterlife of this whole thing, what is our way forward?
we are going to have to migrate our societies digitally, to function digitally. That is what is the reality. It's not a luxury. We have to function more remotely. I mean, we were talking about fourth industrial revolution not a long time ago, IT and so forth. This is the pandemic that no one could have foreseen, and it is forcing us that we're going to have to learn to exist and survive within this. We're going to have to adjust if we want to survive and sustain our economy. That is the only way. And I think we will. We have it within ourselves as a nation, as societies, to work together, share the technology, and try to find some level of functionality as the people.
And Dr. Ralph, just quickly to finish off our conversation, what are we expecting from the richer South Africans to assist the poorer South Africans?
The richer have realized they are vulnerable, and they can never thrive in a society where the poor are too vulnerable themselves as well. So I'm expecting to see richer people reaching out from their heart and understanding that collective solidarity, I think, is coming out. We should not lose out of this. Usually, when nations are confronted with catastrophe and wars, solidarity becomes stronger. South Africa needs it even longer beyond this crisis.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Ralph Thetha. I mean, absolutely amazing and quite motivating and encouraging to say, you know what, as a country, we can work together, but we do need to be in solidarity.
We need to choose to work together, and of course also with all the different things. I challenge you to see where you see that something is wrong, raise it, make sure you put in that complaint so we can ensure that we hold those accountable, because I do not believe at this time of dealing with the pandemic, we also should be dealing with being looked at down on by other people in society.
Yes, and thank you very much for tuning into Daily Thetha, and I challenge you to check your privilege and help the person next to you. Thank you very much and goodbye.